Welcome to Life Study Library. This is your host, Lye Yosh. In this channel, I'll introduce you to these interesting and educational science and psychology by using scientific studies. This video is going to be the part 2 of expressive writing. If you're interested, please enjoy and make sure to like, subscribe, and share Life Study Library. And for this particular series, I recommend you go watch my previous video that covers the basics of what expressive writing even is. The link to it is in the description, so come back after finishing the other video. You'll have to watch that one to understand this one. Okay, we're getting right into it. So it seems like some people are against the idea of writing about your negative emotions because doing so might unintentionally engrave that negative memory in your mind. You pretty much will not be able to forget about that experience. This process shares a lot with the concept of outputting information. When you want to remember information, you first need to input the info and then output it. It's the reason why teaching a subject you want to learn to someone else allows you to remember it better. And because expressive writing is similar to outputting, the memory of the negative experience lingers much longer without fading away with time. We actually have to think about this because many other studies have proven that the number of times you output an information correlates with you retaining it better. And as for negative memories, it'll definitely worsen your emotional state. Another reason as to why this discrepancy happens is because people's understanding of each negative emotion is different. Think about it. You most likely can think of numerous vocabularies that describe a negative emotion like sadness, grief, anger, regret, melancholy, fear, anxiety. When we are first introduced to expressive writing, we often think of these emotions as simply negative emotion, instead of categorizing each one of them into its own individual categories and differences. It's no surprise to think that a person who's suffering from overthinking has to be viewed from a certain direction that fits its own appropriate way of resolving the issue, a way that's very different from someone who's struggling with regret. Each emotional issue has its own best fit of resolution, but by carelessly grouping them into one category called negative emotion, we are doing expressive writing a disservice. So let's talk about how to properly perform it. So the answer to solving this issue is to understand that expressive writing will typically only work towards worries about the future and not towards a regret of the past. Negative emotions that tend to follow worries about the future, like anxiousness or uncertainty or being worried, can be mitigated effectively because it hasn't happened yet. And so the result can be altered in many ways depending on what you do now. If you're worried about tomorrow's test or the presentation next week, you can still alter your course of action by studying for the test or practicing the presentation, asking someone else to do your work, or you can not study right now and cheat during the test. One way I would use expressive writing to resolve future problems is to write about these potential course of actions, most likely realize that cheating is too risky, or that my friend might not be available nor reliable, and thus I will be able to reach a tangible answer, which is to do the work right now because I still have time to prepare. Much harder to resolve is your regrets about the past, precisely because in most cases it cannot be undone. And writing about these in detail will only be a reminder of your undoing, which fuels your negative emotion. So the positive effects of expressive writing definitely exist, but with limits, and not performing it correctly will backfire in your effort to come to terms with your negative emotions. So how do you do exactly that with your past regrets? If you want to know, I really recommend you read The Power of Regret: How Looking Backward Moves Us Forward by Daniel H. Pink. Did I mention this book in my most previous video? I was supposed to be. Well, okay, if I forgot, I'm doing it right now, so. The main claim the book is saying is that everyone has regrets, but there are ways to effectively make amends with them. And please don't associate this claim with thinking positively. In fact, positive thinking by itself, when it comes to dealing with regrets about past events, will often backfire for reasons I'll explain later. For now, allow me to summarize the key points of the book. First, I'll talk about the merits of regret. Despite the negative first impression of the term and the assumed resolution of positive thinking appearing in your mind, you'll be able to learn a lot from your regretful past by looking at it head on. If you didn't fully prepare for the test or turned in an erroneous assignment at your job, you can use the emotion of regret as a fuse to shift your mindset from simply kicking yourself to coming up with ways to not make the same mistake. I've stood on the idea of your emotion itself being uncontrollable, but your following actions not. So you can use the emotion of regret, aka an uncontrollable emotion, as a cue to think about the past happenings and utilize that to improve your future decisions. Accepting regret will not only help you come to terms with a negative event, but can also become a guiding hand that makes you more decisive. If you failed at or neglected an important task, which makes you think, I might have chosen the wrong path, that's why I suck at it, you can connect this thought of regret to an action that makes you think, maybe this is a sign for me to do something else I can do better. Oh, on that note, I need to mention the existence of the sunk cost fallacy, a psychological bias that might become a hurdle for you to throw away the already made commitment and starting from the new page. It's true that you've already came so far, and it would feel like a waste to dispose the commitment, but sometimes it's better for you to throw it away and start afresh. And you can affirm this decision with the emotion of regret. Obviously, with the addition of critical and analytical thinking, that proves starting over or changing directions is actually the better thing to do. Some immediate actions you can take after feeling regretful of your life events is to think about what you can learn from this, or reframing your emotion of regret to something positive and productive, like a source of motivation, or self reflecting about how your regretful emotion mirrors your life goals or dreams or aspirations. So, these are some things to keep in mind when perceiving your regret. Alright, I think that should be enough for the first point. I've emphasized before that the term regret has many different meanings in different contexts, and that there are 4 different types of regret that you should approach differently to see effective recovery. So I'll talk about one of them in this video and the remainder in the upcoming one. The first one of the 4 types of regret is foundation regrets. Regrets you'll have when, for example, you didn't prepare yourself enough and paid a price. The lack of preparation can totally happen from you being lazy, which often takes the blame for most people's undoings. But another way to think about why foundation regrets happen is because you're too focused on the present moment. Now, I'd fully support this in scenarios where concentration is required, but in other moments, you do need to think about the future and prepare. Economists call this the time discount, as the grasshopper didn't die because it was having fun and was focused on its current state of mind, but more so because it wasn't thinking about the future and was ultimately punished. Foundation regrets are definitely regrets, and you are better off without it. And in order to escape this, all it takes is for you to avoid self blaming and shift your attention to analyzing the environment. This misattribution in the cause of your regret is called the fundamental attribution error, and you need to deeply think about whether this misfortune you experienced was really your fault. If after quitting your activity an attribution error appears saying you can't do anything right, you need to question that statement and look for a sufficient reason that made the error happen. Was it too hard for me at this level? Am I even motivated to do this? Am I enjoying this? And most importantly, is it possible to improve or fix this mistake? By thinking about whether the failing is controllable or not, you will be able to escape attribution error and effectively use the emotion of regret to our benefit. Okay, so that was it for today's video. Like I said, the rest will be talked about in the next one. I'll make it as quickly as possible. While you're waiting, if you haven't yet, please check out the previous video, the part 1 of expressive writing do's and don'ts. The link is in the description. But the other video you might find interesting is called 272% chance of recovery, the best method to recover from depressive symptoms. The study that this video is based off of is from 2020, so some of the details discovered in might not be so accurate in today's standards, but the emphasis of the overall theme is very important. If you can successfully do this certain activity and make it into a daily habit and continue doing that for a long time, you might be able to come to terms with your negative stress or your negative emotions, all without any ingestions of medical pills, which are typically hugely overpriced and not that reliable. You can learn about the details of this by watching this video, so if that activates your curious brain, please go check it out and don't forget to like the video if it gives you something positive. You can also go check out the other recommended videos and books in the description. That was it for today's episode on Life Study Library. Thank you for watching. I've been your host, Lye Yosh. Each one of your support is incredibly helpful. So please make sure to like this video, subscribe to Life Study Library if you haven't already, and also share to others that this channel exists. I'll see you in another video. Ciao!